In this video, I am going to go over 10 sample GED math questions. You will see similar types of questions on the real GED test. Question 1 says points J, K, and L are plotted on a coordinate grid. What are the coordinates of the points on the coordinate grid? Coordinate means x, comma, y. It tells you how to move on this grid. Remember, your x-axis goes across and your y-axis goes up and down. So let's go ahead and find the coordinate of point J. This is how you do it. You're going to start here at 0, right at the origin. And for a coordinate, your first movement is going to be either left or right on the x-axis, and then you will move up or down. So to get the point J, I first need to move 4 units to the left. So my x value is -4, and then from here I need to move 1 unit on the y-axis. So my y value is 1. So the coordinate of J is -4. That's my x value. 1. That's my y value. So let's do it one more time. Start at the origin. I move to the left 4 units. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's my -4. That's my x value, and I put that here. And then from here, I moved up 1 unit. That's my y value. Shows up here, so I replace the y with 1. So the coordinate of point J is -4, comma 1. Now I'm going to go over to my answer choices and look at just point J right here. Let's look at A. It says the coordinate of J is 1, comma, -4. That's backwards from this, so I can get rid of A. Let's look at B. It says the coordinate of J is -4, 1. That matches with this, and so does C and D. So I have to keep B, C, and D, but I got rid of A. So at this point, you can guess if you need to. There's nothing wrong with guessing. You have a better chance. Let's keep going. And now let's try to find the coordinate of K. What do you think it is? I start here. How many units do I move on the x-axis? I move 0 units on the x-axis because K is directly above. So x is 0. How many units do I move on the y-axis from here? We'll have to move up 3 units. 1, 2, 3, right here. So the y value is 3. So the coordinate of K is 0, comma 3. Let's go through our answer choices. Remember, A is gone. So for B, we're looking at the K point now. It says K is 0, 3. Yeah, that matches up. C, K is 0, 3. That matches up. I have to keep B and C. What about D? D, it says K is 3, it says K is 3, 0. That's backwards from this, so I get rid of D. Let's keep going. Again, at this point, you can guess if you need to. Now you have a 50-50 chance. What's the coordinate of point L? Start here. I need to move 3 units in the x direction and -2 units in the y direction. So it's 3, -2, right? 1, 2, 3. To the right, so +3, down 2, 1, 2, so -2. Well, now we should be able to find our answer. Let's look at point L. For B, it says point L is 3, -2. That matches up with this. And if you look at C, it says -2, comma 3. This is backwards from this, so I can get rid of C, and B is my answer. Let's move on to the next question. Let's go ahead and simplify this expression. I rewrote it down here in blue. These are multiplication symbols. They are not the letter X. The first thing you should notice is that this 2 is outside this set of parentheses. There is no exponent on the outside of this set of parentheses, so I need to deal with this piece first. Now remember, exponents mean repeated multiplication. So since the 2 is on the outside of this set of parentheses, this whole thing is my base. So I need to write this thing out 2 times and multiply it. So that's what I'm going to do. Now once I've done that, I just bring this piece down. Now the next step in this process is to reorder everything with the same base. And I can do that because this is all multiplication. And when you switch the order when you're multiplying, it doesn't affect anything. So I'm going to reorder this as follows. I'll put everything with a base 2 next to each other. So 2 to the 9th times 2 to the 4th times 2 to the 4th. I'll put a set of parentheses around this to make it easier to read. Then I'll reorder all the base 3's together. So 3 to the 5th times 3 times 3. Now I just need to multiply this out. You might have forgotten how to do this, so I'm going to write this in expanded form. It takes a little longer, but I want you to understand this. Remember, 2 to the 9th means 2 multiplied by itself 9 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Right? Put time signs in here. 2 to the 4th is 2 multiplied by itself 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 2 to the 4th again. From here. How many times in total is the 2 multiplied by itself? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Let me start that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So when I multiply this all out, I get 2 to the 17th. But that takes forever. I don't want to do that. You should notice that I can just add the exponents. And I'll get this 17. 9 plus 4 is 13. 13 plus 4 is 17. So let's just do it that way. So really what I'm doing is when the bases are the same, I simply bring down the base, which is 2, and add the exponents. 9 plus 4 is 13. 13 plus 4 is 17. I'll do the same thing here so I don't have to write it out in expanded form. So this is 3 to the 5th. Now this has an exponent of 1. It's implied. It's not shown. I'm going to write it in there. Because the 3 is written 1 time. And same thing here. There's an implied exponent of 1. So I'll bring down my base of 3 and just add these exponents. 5 plus 1 is 6 plus 1 is 7. In other words, 5 plus 1 plus 1 is 7. And that is my answer, and that matches up with D. Let's go to the next question. Let's look at question 3. The price of Veronica's meal before tax and tip was $11.92. Veronica paid 8% tax, then added a 15% tip to the total. To the nearest cent, how much did Veronica pay for her meal? Step 1, highlight that final question and reread it. To the nearest cent, how much did Veronica pay for her meal? Now I know what my answer choices represent here. Let's go back to the question. It says the price of Veronica's meal before tax and tip was $11.92. Veronica paid 8% tax, then added a 15% tip. Now, I first need to figure out the total bill by adding on the tax. Then I will add on the tip. So it's kind of like two problems in one. I put some stuff in green to help guide us along with this problem. So to find the total bill, I need to take the price of the meal before the tax and the tip, and then add on the tax first. So what is the price of the meal before tax and tip? It's right here. It's $11.92 plus the tax. Well, it says the tax is 8% right here. So here's how I translate that. I need to take 8% of the price of the meal, which is this. 8% of this amount, $11.92. Of in mathematics for this problem implies multiplication. So I'll change this to a times sign. And now I'm going to punch this into my calculator to get the total bill. So $11.92 plus 8%. Now you don't need to change this to a decimal. There's a percent symbol right here on your calculator right above the open parenthesis. So I'm going to type in my 8. Then I'll tack on the percent symbol. Remember, to access this, you need to hit the second button first. Second, open parenthesis. And that tacked on the percent symbol. Times $11.92. Once I punch this in, I hit enter. That's my total bill. I'm just going to take it out to 2 decimal places because it's money. So I'm going to write down $12.87. Now this is the total bill. Then she added a 15% tip. So now I'm going to use this second piece. The total bill is $12.87 from here, plus the tip. The tip is 15% of the total bill. So 15% of the total bill, $12.87. Remember, of implies multiplication. Now I'll punch this piece in the calculator to get the amount that Veronica paid for her meal. Clear? $12.87 plus 15%, percent's here again, times $12.87. Hit enter, and we get about $14.80. And this is the amount Veronica paid for her meal. That matches up with choice D. Let's go to the next question. Let's look at question 4. It says a store charges $6.96 for a case of mineral water. Each case contains 2 boxes of mineral water. Each box contains 4 bottles of mineral water. What is the cost of each bottle of mineral water? Highlight the final question. And now I know what my answer choices represent. Each one of these represents the cost of a bottle. I'm going to actually write that. cost for one bottle. So in other words, if my answer choice is A, that means each bottle cost 87 cents, and so on. Now for a problem like this, let's draw a picture. Let's draw a case first. So this is the case, and it says a store charges $6.96 for a case. So this case costs $6.96. Now each case contains 2 boxes of mineral water. Let's put that in here. Each box contains 4 bottles of mineral water. So within these boxes, I'm going to draw 4 bottles of mineral water. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, how many bottles do I have in total within the case? You should see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if I take the cost per bottle times the 8 bottles, I will get the total cost right here. So I'm going to use my answer choices to help me. Let's start with A. It says it's 87 cents for one bottle. We have 8 bottles, so I'll multiply this by 8. If that comes out to $6.96, I'm done. So let's do that. 87 cents times 8. Check it out. That matched up on the first go around. So when I take 87 cents times 8 bottles, I get $6.96, which matches up with the total cost, and I'm done. Let's move to the next question. Question 5. Kirsten walks up 6 flights of stairs to her office each morning as part of her exercise routine. She walks the first 3 flights, rests for 30 seconds, walks the next 2 flights at the same rate of speed as she walked the first 3 flights, rests again for 30 seconds, and then walks the last flight of stairs at the same rate of speed. Which graph represents Kirsten walking up the stairs? Again, step 1, read that final question. Which graph represents Kirsten walking up the stairs? Now after that, I am going to highlight important information. So it says that Kirsten walks up 6 flights of stairs to her office each morning. I'm going to go to the second sentence. The first thing she does is she walks the first 3 flights. Then after that, she rests for 30 seconds. I'm just going to highlight rests. Then after that, she walks the next 2 flights. And she does that at the same rate of speed as she walked the first 3 flights. Then she rests again. For 30 seconds. And then she walks the last flight of stairs. Now I'm going to organize this information into a little list. So let's see. The first thing she does is she walks the first 3 flights. So she walks 3 flights. What does she do after that? She rests. Then she walks 2 flights. Then she rests. Then she walks the last flights of stairs. Now you should notice that Kirsten is resting 2 times, here and here. And on a time height graph, resting is indicated by a flat line. So when you see a flat line, it just means that time is passing, but her height above the ground is not changing. So in short, what I'm looking for are graphs that contain flat horizontal lines. Any graph that does not contain this and this 2 times, I can get rid of. Let's go ahead and look at A. Are there any flat pieces of the graph on A? No, so A is gone. What about B? See, she's going up the stairs. She rests here. Yeah, it's flat here. And she rests here again. So there's 2 flat pieces, so I have to keep B. What about C? There's no flat pieces. Get rid of C. What about D? Well, it looks like I have to keep D because there's a flat piece here indicating that she's resting. And there's another flat piece here indicating that she's resting. So keep D. Now at this point, you can go ahead and guess. You have a 50-50 chance. But let's narrow it down to the final question. Now, I want to point out something right here at the beginning. It said that Kirsten walks up 6 flights of stairs right here. So she walked a total of 6 flights. And if you look at the end of the question, it says she walked the last flight of stairs, but it doesn't tell us how many flights that she walked at the end. But we can figure that out. What would this have to be? Well, she walked 3 flights, then she walked 2 flights. That's a total of 5 flights. So the last flight must have been 1 flight. Because she walked a total of 6 flights, and 3 flights plus 2 flights plus 1 flight is a total of 6 flights. Now I'm going to write this information in on the graph right here. So for B, she walked 3 flights. I'll just put a 3 for 3 flights. Then she rests. That's right here. I'll put an R for rests. Then she walked 2 flights. So this is 2 flights. She rests. And then she walked 1 flight at the end. And this will be labeled the same way. 3 flights, rests, 2 flights, rests, 1 flight. So based on that, which graph do you think is correct, B or D? Hopefully you can see that it is D. Let's just look at the first part of the graph and the last part of the graph. The first part of the graph indicates that she climbed 3 flights of stairs. The last part of the graph indicates that she climbed 1 flight of stairs. Therefore, this segment has to be longer than this segment, and it is. So my answer is D. If you look at B, this segment is about the same length as this segment, and that just doesn't make sense. That's why B is gone. Let's move on. Question 6. The line graph shows the monthly payroll at a large construction company. In which month did the monthly payroll decrease the most? Decrease means to go down. So let's figure out the payroll for February, because that's our first answer choice. Here's February. So I'm going to go up to this point. what you need to understand is this represents the end of February. So this is like February 28th, and then right before it would be February 27th, 26th, and so on. So I'm looking at this piece of the graph right here. So it's clear that the payroll for February is going down. It's decreasing because you read a graph from left to right. Now it should say here end of month. That would make it easier. So to calculate how much the payroll went down in February, I'm just going to take this amount here, which is about 61 right here. It's really 61,000 because it says payroll in thousands. But I'm just going to write 61. And then I'm going to subtract this amount right here, which represents the payroll on the day at the end of the month. And that's about, I don't know, 44, 45,000. I'll say 45. And it went down. Well, let's see by how much. What's 61 minus 45? That's 16. I want to put in 1,000. So in February, the payroll went down by 16,000. Now let's go to March. Let me clear this out here. Let's go to March next. Here's March right here. So I go up to this point. This is really the end of March. So the beginning of March would be about right here. So beginning of March to the end of March, well, the payroll went up here. It's increasing because you read a graph from left to right. So on March, the payroll increased, it went up, and we're just looking for payrolls that decrease. So March is gone, get rid of it. Now if you need to at this point, you have a better chance of guessing. Let's now go to June. So here's June. This represents the end of the month. This is about the beginning of the month. And we will subtract. So the beginning of the month, the payroll was about, I don't know, 79,000. Just estimating. And at the end of the month, it was about 55,000. I'll subtract those two amounts to find the change. And that equals 24,000. And it went down. So it went down more in June, right, than it did in February. Went down by $24,000. And we're looking for when it decreased the most. Well, it decreased more here than here. So I can get rid of February. Now we're down to June and July. Remember, June was this piece of the graph. Now, I don't need to actually calculate July. I can figure out just by looking at the graph which one between June and July is decreasing the most. Here's July, end of the month, and it goes from here to about here. Just by looking at the graph, is the payroll decreasing more in June or July? What do you think? Hopefully you're thinking June, because June slants down more quickly. It's more steep. July does not slant down as quickly. It's decreasing more rapidly here than here. Therefore, I can get rid of July. And my answer has to be June. Let's move on. Let's look at question 7. What is the slope of the line represented by the equation 3x plus 4y equals 8? basically, this question is asking us to take this equation and to write it in slope-intercept form. That's this form right here. Y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to take this equation and write it in this form. Let me write that down. Put it over here. And you will have access to a formula sheet when you take the test. So I'm going to write this equation over here. 3x plus 4y equals 8. And the goal is to get this equation in this form. Basically, I'm solving the equation for y. So the first thing I do is I put up a Weiss wall just to separate my left and right hand side. Weiss wall. This is my left hand side, this is my right hand side, and the goal is to get the y by itself. I'm solving for y, so I need to move this 3x here to the other side of the wall. So I need to make this go to 0. So I'll subtract 3x, because 3x minus 3x goes to 0. But what you do to one side of the wall, or the equation, you have to do to the other side. So I subtracted 3x from both sides. Now 3x minus 3x, that goes to 0. So I drop this off. I bring down my 4y, bring down my equal sign. At this point, I have 8 minus 3x. Now, a lot of students put this, 5x. They say 8 minus 3x is 5x. But that is not correct. You cannot combine these two terms because this 8 does not have a letter attached to it and the 3 does. So there's really nothing I can do with these. So instead, I'll just rewrite it. I'll write the x part first, negative 3x, and then I'll write the 8 next, plus 8. Remember, there's a plus sign here, it's just not showing. Now the next step is to divide everything by 4. Remember, the ultimate goal is to get the equation in this form where the y is isolated or by itself. So this y is multiplied by 4. To undo multiplication, we do division. So I need to divide every term by 4. Remember, when you divide, you don't switch the signs here. They stay the same. And the 4 divided by 4, well, that just drops off. And I'm left with y. I'll bring that down. Bring down my equal sign. Bring down my negative 3/4 x. Bring down my plus sign. And 8 divided by 4 is 2. Now I have the equation written in slope-intercept form. This matches up with this form. And in slope-intercept form, the m here represents the slope. It's whatever the x is multiplied by. And in this case, the x is multiplied by negative 3/4. Therefore, my slope equals negative 3/4. Again, when it's written in this form, the slope is whatever the x is multiplied by. Now I just need to find the correct answer. Remember, we were looking for the slope. So let's go through our answer choices. Hopefully you can see I can eliminate C and D because the slope here is negative and neither one of these have a negative sign. So C is gone and D is gone. And hopefully you can see I can get rid of a because it says 4 over 3 and the slope is 3 over 4. So a is gone and it has to be b. And if you notice on b, the negative sign is positioned in the middle of the fraction. When I wrote it, it was positioned at the top of the fraction. It doesn't matter. You can position the negative sign at the top, at the middle, or even on the bottom. Question 8. What is the equation of a line that has a slope of -7 and passes through the point 4, 8? So there's some key words in here. Equation of line, slope, and point. Now on our formula sheet, an equation of a line shows up in 2 places. But you should notice here that we're given the point and the slope. That's this second one down. Not the second one down, but really the third one down. It says point slope. So when you're given the point and the slope and you're trying to find the equation, you want to go to this piece of the formula sheet where it says point slope form of the equation. And it's this one right here. I'm going to write that down. Now in a previous video I said I stay away from this one and I always use this one. Well, I misspoke in that video. For this particular problem, it's easier to use the point slope form of the equation. Sometimes it's easier to use this one. I'm going to write this down. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Now when you're dealing with this equation here, you're going to be substituting in for 3 things. You're going to be substituting in for y1, for m, and for x1. You're just going to bring down the x and the y. So watch how this works. The slope is -7. So the m represents the slope. So this is my m value right here. -7. This coordinate here is xy. But careful. I'm going to put a 1 here and a 1 here. The reason I did that is because this is 1 point on the line. So make sure you write those little subscripts of 1 in there. And this is what I'm going to substitute in for x1 and y1. So let's do this. So let's bring down the y. Bring down the minus sign. y1, I will replace that with 8 from right here. Bring down the equal sign. M, I will replace that with -7 from right here. Bring down this parenthesis, bring down your x, bring down your minus sign, and replace the x1 with the 4 from right here. Now let's continue to simplify this. I'm going to bring down my y minus 8, bring down my equal sign, and I need to use the distributive property here. I need to multiply the -7 with the x and the -7 with the 4. -7 times x, I will write like this. I will bring down my minus sign. Then I will multiply the -7 with the 4. Let's keep going. Bring down your y minus 8 again. Bring this down. -7 times x is just -7x. And here we are subtracting negative. Remember, when you have a minus sign and a negative sign right next to each other like this, just change it to one big plus sign, because subtracting negative is the same as addition. Let's Just change this piece to one big plus sign. Bring that plus sign down, and 7 times 4 is 28. We're getting closer. The next thing I am going to do is put up a Weiss wall right here. Just to separate my left-hand side and my right-hand side. You can extend the wall if you want to. And what I notice is that this 8 and this 28, they are like terms. Each one of these don't have a letter attached to them. So what I'm going to do is move this 8 to the other side of the wall with the 28. So to do that, I need to make this go to 0. So I will add 8. Because minus 8 plus 8 is 0. Or another way to look at it is to undo subtraction, I do addition. So I added 8 to the left-hand side. I need to do the same thing to the right-hand side. This goes to 0. Bring down your y. Bring down your equal sign. Bring down your negative 7x. And when we combine these two, 28 plus 8 is 36. Now I can really stop here because I have a plus 36 in this equation. That tells me that when I look at my answer choices, I need to see a 36 somewhere. So let's go to A. Do you see a 36 anywhere? No. This is 60. Get rid of A. What about B? Yeah, there's a 36 there. Keep it. What about C? No 36. Get rid of it. What about D? Is there a 36 in D? No, there's a 20. Get rid of it. My answer choice is B. And at this point, I would move on. Now, I'm going to show you how to get it into the final form if you want to know. If you don't, you can move on to the next question. So I'm just going to recopy this really quickly. It was y equals negative 7x plus 36. So all I'm going to do is move this minus 7x to the left-hand side. And I'm also going to put in my plus sign here with the y because it's positive. So to move this to the left-hand side, just add 7x to both sides because minus 7x plus 7x goes to 0. What you do to the right-hand side, you do to the left-hand side. So I will add 7x over here too. So this becomes 7x. I'll write the 7x part first because that's how it shows up here. Plus y. Bring down your equal sign. This goes to 0. And then bring down your 36. And now it matches up perfectly. Question number 9. Chelsea designs beaded bracelets. The equation P equals 7 plus 0.05b can be used to find the price P of a bracelet that has B beads. What does the number 0.05 in the equation represent? Let's highlight and reread that final question. What does the number 0.05 in the equation represent? This is one of those problems where you don't want to lose your common sense. Watch how I go about this. Let's just go to our answer choices. And I'm going to set each answer choice equal to 0.05 and see if it even makes sense. So let's start with A. So the price of the bead, the price of each bead equals 0.05. Since we're talking about price, I'll put a dollar sign or a set sign here. So if someone were making a bracelet, would it make sense that each bead, the price of each bead is 5 cents? I'd say yes, that makes sense to me. So it is possible that the price of each bead could be 5 cents. So I'm going to keep A. Let's look at B. The price of each bracelet equals 0.05. Well, we're talking about price again, so I'm going to put a cent sign here. Does this make sense? The price of a bracelet is 5 cents. Well, it could, if it's not a very expensive bracelet. But I'm thinking this is kind of a little bit cheap for a bracelet, but I'll keep it. Let's look at C. The number of bracelets made equals 0.05. Now I'm not going to put a dollar sign or cent sign next to this because we're no longer talking about price. We're talking about the number of bracelets. Would it make sense to say I made 0.05 bracelets? That doesn't make sense to me. When you're counting the number of bracelets made, you would count in whole numbers. You might say I made 20 bracelets, or I made 100 bracelets. But you wouldn't say I made 0.05 bracelets. Get rid of C. I'm going to use the same sort of thinking for D. I'll set this equal to 0.05. Does this make sense? The number of beads in a bracelet equals 0.05. Would you say there are 0.05 beads in a bracelet? No. You might say there's 10 beads in a bracelet or 7 beads in a bracelet. You would use whole numbers here as well. This doesn't make sense. Get rid of D. At this point you can guess and move on. I think A makes the most sense. The price of each bead is 5 cents. The price of each bracelet, 5 cents, kind of makes sense, but just seems a little cheap here, so I'd probably go with A. We did all this using common sense without looking at the equation, and we did answer the question. It says, what does the number 0.05 in the equation represent? Just to be sure, let's write down the equation here, and we'll translate it. P equals 7 plus 0.05B. P is the price of the bracelet, and B is the beads. So let's translate this. This says the price of the bracelet equals $7 plus 0.05 cents per bead. That's kind of a double check, so we're for sure right. A is the answer. Question number 10. Jessica has 20 hours a week to spend making scarves. Each week she spends 2 hours purchasing the materials. Each scarf takes 3 hours to complete. The inequality 2 plus 3s is less than or equal to 20 represents the number of scarves S Jessica can make in 1 week. Using the number line below, click each number to plot each possible value for S. Now when you're taking the GED test, you'll be able to click on the number line and a point will show up. But for my video, I'll just be drawing in points wherever I need to. The first thing you want to do here is just copy this equation. I mean this inequality over here. It's 2 plus 3s is less than or equal to 20. I'll explain this piece a little more in a second. And what you want to do is solve this equation for S. This is an S. And you should notice probably that the 2 represents the amount of time in hours it takes her to purchase the materials. So 2 hours to purchase the materials plus 3 hours to make each scarf. And the amount of time to do that has to be less than or equal to 20 hours. That's what this means, this inequality. You really don't need to know that. What you want to do is just solve it. So to solve an inequality, all you need to do is put up the Weiss wall. And you solve it the exact same way as an equation, except instead of bringing down an equal sign each time, you'll be bringing down this symbol each time. So I notice right off the bat that this 2 and this 20, they are like terms. They both don't have a letter attached to them. but they're on different sides of the inequality. So I'm going to move this 2 over with the 20. So to do that, I will just subtract 2 here because I want this to go to 0. 2 minus 2 is 0. So I need to do the same thing on the other side of the inequality. I'll subtract 2 here as well. This goes to 0. We have 3s. I'll bring that down. Bring down this inequality. And 20 minus 2 is 18. And now I notice that the s is multiplied by 3. So to undo multiplication by 3, I divide both sides by 3. Here and here. The 3's drop off, and I'm left with the following. S, bring this down, and 18 divided by 3 is 6. So this is my solution. Let's write this over here. I'll put this in a different color. Remember, S represents the number of scarves. It says that right here. Now what I'm going to do is translate what this inequality means. The way you read this is the number of scarves that Jessica can make is less than 6 or equal to 6. This little bar below means or equal to, and if you get confused and can't remember that, just put the second part of the equal sign in there. That helps students remember, even though they don't write that in. So really what this means is S, the number of scarves that Jessica can make, is less than 6, or S, the number of scarves that Jessica can make, is equal to 6. So I just kind of wrote it into 2 pieces. My less than piece I put here, and my equal than piece I put here. Now we need to go ahead and put this information on the number line. Let me go ahead and erase this real quick. And again, this means the number of scarves that Jessica can make is less than 6. So let's put this on here first, but let me just explain one important piece of information. We're only looking at scarves that Jessica completed. And when you complete something, it's a whole number. So she could complete maybe 2 scarves or 4 scarves. You wouldn't say she completed 4.5 scarves. So we're only looking at whole numbers here. So keep that in mind when I do this. So the number of completed scarves is less than 6. So on the number line, I'm looking for all the whole numbers that are less than 6. Well, all the whole numbers that are less than 6 are 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. I'm just about done now, but she can also complete 6 scarves as well, because it says S, or the number of scarves, equals 6. So I'm also going to put a point right here on the 6. And I'm done. This is the graph, and you would move on. One thing I want to explain, if it were to say on the GED test the following. Let's say instead of here, there was no bar below the inequality. Same thing here and here. And after solving it, it said this. The number of scarves completed is less than 6, and we didn't have that bar below it. Your graph would be identical. The only thing that would be different is you would not include this point above the 6. It would look like this. But other than that, it would be the same. So keep that in mind when you're taking the GED test. Have a great day.